to go. You guys right? Thanks for joining us, and apologies for the lateness of the hour. It's been a very busy afternoon. As Jerome made clear earlier on today, this is a half-hour by half-hour thing. We get the best of advice, the latest of information to make the best calls to keep Victorians safe. Since Jerome was out earlier on today, we have 2 additional cases, and I'll ask Jerome to speak to those, but that brings to a total of 18 the number of cases within Victoria. We have 75 exposure sites, 1,500 primary close contacts and 5,000 secondary close contacts. That's how fast this moves. I want to assure all Victorians that our contact tracers, our public health experts, all the team are moving faster than they ever have. They're doing a brilliant job, and I'm very proud of them and very grateful to them. But as fast as they're moving, they're just keeping pace with this virus. They're not getting in front of it. And unless they get in front of it, we won't drive these numbers down. In fact, they will ultimately get away from us. That is why it's with a heavy heart, but with an absolute necessity and a determination to beat this Delta strain, just as we did a few weeks ago, that the Chief Health Officer and the Public Health team have recommended to me and my Cabinet colleagues that we lock Victoria down from 11:59pm tonight until 11:59pm next Tuesday night. This will be a hard lockdown, similar to, in fact identical to what we did a couple of weeks ago. If you were authorised to work then, you will be authorised to work now. If you were closed then, you will be closed now. It is detailed, there's absolute clarity. We're doing it the way we always do it. Cases, contacts and contacts of contacts, and we're even going further than that. We've got a list of those people who can work, a list of those businesses that can be open, and a list who cannot. So it is essentially a repeat of the successful strategy from just a couple of weeks ago. That was successful then, this will be successful now, and in anticipation of the great work that I know every Victorian will do, I'm very, very grateful. We would prefer that this had not come to our state. We would prefer that we didn't have to deal with these issues, but this is so infectious. This is such a challenge that we must do this. You only get one chance to go hard and go fast. If you wait, if you hesitate, if you doubt, then you will always be looking back wishing you had done more earlier. I am not prepared to avoid a 5-day lockdown now only to find ourselves in a 5-week or a 5-month lockdown. That's why we're making this very difficult decision, and it's why I know Victorians will, despite the pain and the difficulty of this, know and understand that there is no option. What's more, they'll know and understand that they each have an important part to play in the success of this lockdown. Now, in terms of the statewide nature of this, we do have exposure sites and issues, challenges, in places like Ballan and Bacchus Marsh and Barwon Heads. We've got an AFL football game where it appears people who did not knowingly spend any time together and don't know each other have infected each other. One of those teams, Geelong, a regional team, every chance that there is a spread of people, a cross-section of people from not just metropolitan Melbourne. However, because I know and understand, having grown up in a regional community a long way away from Melbourne, I know and understand how frustrating it is for people who don't have, for communities, townships that don't have cases and don't have exposure sites to be locked down. We will release those parts of regional Victoria that it is safe to release before next Tuesday, if it is safe to do so. To give you an example, we've got some outstanding tests from a number of different regional communities. If they come back, as we hope, negative, then just as we will release those thousands of people who are in ISO waiting for the test result, we may be able to release parts of regional Victoria. We want to keep this as simple as possible, but we always want to be proportionate and make sure that everyone's playing their part as they need to do. No more, no less. And I again acknowledge, if you're in the far east of the state or the Alpine region or in the northwest of the state, for instance, it's very challenging to be locked down because of things that are happening in Melbourne. The challenge here is they might be happening in other places. We don't know yet, and we have to have an abundance of caution given how virulent, given how infectious, given how fast this Delta variant moves. Now, in terms of business support, I'll have more to say as early as tomorrow, and we'll be looking to fast-track payments, but principally to those who received payments last time. In relation to announcements that the Prime Minister has made earlier on today, I've spoken with the PM, I've been texting back and forward with him most of the day, and I'll speak with him later on this evening. All week, there's been a bit of banter, a bit of back and forth between our government and the Commonwealth Government. I want to be clear for all Victorians, all we have sought to do, and what I think we have done, is remind the Commonwealth Government that at every point they have said their packages of support, their measures, their policies, their plans are based on need. Well, there is need in Victoria from 11:59 p.m. tonight, and we expect that the Commonwealth Government will step up and help those people who need that help. They've put a 7-day kick point, if you like, a start point, that if it's not a 7-day lockdown, you wouldn't be eligible. I'll be talking with the Prime Minister tonight about maybe a pro rata payment, and I'm very confident that the Prime Minister has heard our message loud and clear this week, and I welcome the changes that were announced from Sydney today, on the back of changes that were announced from Sydney on Tuesday. I want everybody to get a fair deal. I want wherever the need is for that need to be met. We've never had a different view. That's always been our view. We're part of this nation. It's needs-based. It's not foreign aid. We're not a different country. We make our contribution, and we expect that the national government supports us, just as we will be supporting Victorian businesses, and I'll have more to say about that as soon as possible, as early as tomorrow. In the meantime, my message to Victorians is really clear. We've got no choice. We've got to do this. Otherwise it'll get away from us, and as we, more than any other part of our nation, know, we don't want this getting away from us and being locked down for months. We want to deal with this with a short, sharp lockdown, decisive action, not waiting, not dawdling, not delay. Hard and fast, you only get one chance. Now is our time. This is the time to do this. That's the advice that's been provided to me, and that's the decisions that I have made. But I cannot do this on my own. The army of contact tracers cannot do it on their own. We need every single Victorian. If you're sick, go and get tested and do nothing else. Don't go to work. Don't go to your family's, friend's place. Don't go anywhere other than to a testing site. If you need help, if you need assistance, we will be there for you. We will support you. Of course we will. But the most important thing, if you've got any symptoms, please get tested and don't delay. If you've been asked to do certain things, so to isolate, to wait for a test, to stay away from other people, please do as you have been asked. And I've got a very clear message for anybody travelling into Victoria. You're travelling on a permit. The conditions of that permit are really important. We check on you and we expect that you'll play your part. Beyond that, I might just ask Jerome now to update you on those a couple of additional cases, and then we're happy to take questions on any and all matters. Jerome.
Thank you, Premier. Good afternoon. So of the 2 new cases reported since I spoke earlier today, 1 additional case currently in the MCC reserve at the MCG. Again, another attendee of the Carlton and Geelong game on Saturday. That now makes 3 new cases at the MCG that we're reporting on today in total. The other new case this afternoon is a personal contact of a positive case at the aerial buildings. They do not live in the aerial buildings, but it is a personal close contact of that individual. They are, of course, now in quarantine and are well. The numbers, apart from that, for the rest of the outbreaks remain very similar. The City of Hume outbreak stands at 5 cases. This is the family of 4, the red zone returnees, plus the 1 additional close contact that they encountered they had at Coles. It's a total of 5 cases for the City of Hume outbreak, with around 200 personal close contacts in that particular outbreak. There are now 6 positive cases associated with the aerial apartments in Maribyrnong, and 680 personal close contacts for those 6 cases. 4 of those cases are residents across 2 different apartments in that apartment complex. All those 4 residents yesterday moved to hotel quarantine, and my thanks to them for making our work that bit easier and for ensuring they remain safe and well in that environment. The 131 residents of the complex, we have 104 that have now returned a negative test result. We of course have 4 positive residents, and the remainder will, I expect, coming through later on today. Of course, we have a further 4 cases connected to the aerial apartments, to one of the index cases. That is connected to a household of 3 positive cases in the Barwon Heads area with connections to the Bacchus Marsh Grammar School and Barwon Heads Primary School. And my thanks to both school communities for their really fast response in the last 24 hours. And of course then the 3 cases at the MCG. So all up, as we stand at the moment, 18 positive cases in the community across the 2 Sydney incursions. We have so far today around 20,000 test results already. That is where these 4 positive cases have come from. Of course, we're expecting many more test results during the course of the rest of today and tonight and into the early hours of tomorrow. Finally, my thanks to everybody who's come out to get tested today. We've again seen some busy testing stations. Our testing stations at the moment are generally at an amber status, so around 1 hour or so waiting times. So if you haven't yet got your test, and particularly if you're one of those primary close contacts, or if you've been asked to get tested, please come and do so urgently. My advice to all Victorians, wherever you are across the state, please follow these restrictions. They are there to ensure that we can collect together, get on top of this particular outbreak very, very quickly. Please get tested wherever you are. If you have any symptoms whatsoever, no matter how mild, it is the most important thing you can do. If you are being asked to isolate, along with around 6,500 other Victorians, please do so. And for anybody who needs extra support, who is not clear, who needs information or assistance, please get in touch with us and we'll be there to ensure we get through this together. With that, I'll hand back to the Premier.
Thanks very much, Jerome. And whilst I know Victorians are quite used to these rules, they know and understand them, and they were such a big feature of our life last year, and indeed only just a couple of weeks ago. I will run through some of the details just for the purposes of clarity. Before that, can I join with Jerome in thanking those 6,500 Victorians who are at home, staying away from others. They're going through a really difficult time. We're supporting them, and they are essentially not just protecting themselves, they're protecting all of us, and we're deeply grateful to them. Essentially, there are those 5 reasons to leave, so it's the 4 reasons from last year, plus going and getting your jab, going and being vaccinated as part of the Commonwealth Government's program. They are the 5 reasons. 1 person per household for the things you need when you need them, shopping and things of that nature. No need to panic buy, no need to do any of that. We've proven that there's no need to do that. You can't go outside the 5 kilometre radius. You can go and exercise. We've got the time limits, but all the usual things that have applied over time. They have worked before, they will work again. They've worked against different strains of this virus. Most recently, they've worked against Delta, and they will work this time. If we all invest in this, if we all accept this, it's not where we want it to be, and it's not easy, but it's essential. Otherwise, it'll be 5 weeks or 5 months, and I'm just not prepared to wait for the sake of convenience now, only to realise it's too late to do what must be done. In anticipation of the amazing efforts I know Victorians will put in, because they always do, I say thank you. Questions?
Anyway, I travel for up to 5
There are
days.
many COVID cases in regional Victoria.
Correct.
At the moment. Do you think that they're being moved into this lockdown?
Look, nothing about this virus is fair. Nothing about the fact that this virus has travelled from Sydney is fair. That's just the reality we face. I apologise to all Victorians that this is necessary. But part of my job is not just making popular and easy decisions, it's doing what must be done. And at this stage, a statewide lockdown is what's put to me as essential by the public health experts. That may change though. We may be able to release, as we for instance get, hopefully, large numbers of negative tests. We'll be able to let thousands of people who are isolating out, and maybe we'll be able to let large parts of regional Victoria go back to something approaching normal. As soon as we can do that, we will. I just again impress upon all of those viewers and listeners from parts of our state that are a long way from Melbourne. I know that part of the world. I grew up in a community very much like that. I know how inconvenient this is, but it's nothing compared to having this virus run through your community or your district. We're doing everything we can to stop that.
Is that part of that decision is the fact that these people are still waiting on COVID
Yes.
tests?
Yes.
But they could be in isolation at this time, I assume.
Well, some of them will be.
So is there a risk to these areas?
Well, we've gone.
People are in isolation.
Well, I'll just put it to you this way. We've talked about 3 rings before, so the case, the contact and the contact of the contact. We're out to 7 rings at the moment. But there's always an 8th and a 9th. There's always the case you don't know about. There's always the person at the footy that's not from Ballan or Barwon Heads or Bacchus Marsh, but from another part of regional Victoria that we don't yet know about. So from an abundance of caution, it's across the whole state. The other thing too to remember is we've got a border to look after to the north. There's only so many kind of borders and walls, if you like, rings of steel, whatever term you want to use, that you can build. So this is what is appropriate for right now, but if it can change, of course we will let those parts of the community out of these restrictions as quickly as we possibly can. If and when, though, I want to stress this, if and when the public health team tell me that's safe.
What made you land?
Look, everyone, look, I've never walked. Hang on. We're in Melbourne, right? So I'm not walking out of this. Everyone will get a go. So let's just do this in an orderly way. Simon.
Premier, what made you land on 5 days? And is it your hope that Melbourne can come out of it after 5 days?
Absolutely it is. And I can't guarantee that. And to a certain extent, we can have the best of advice. We can do all the hard work and make a judgment about what we think is the appropriate amount of time. It may be longer because it does depend on what every Victorian does. Millions of Victorians making dozens and dozens of choices every day means there are lots of variable points here. If we all do the right thing though, the advice to me, and the advice from the public health team, which is why it's 5 days, is that 5 days is what's needed. This is less complex than the one we did a couple of weeks ago. It's only 2 chains of transmission that we know of. It is Delta, so it's the same very, very infectious strain. They're confident they can get their arms not just around it, but get out in front of it and suppress it, like put it out, in a 5-day period. I cannot guarantee that, but we'll all be working as hard as we possibly can to get back out of this within the 5 days.
So can you be upfront about what will be the marker, the trigger after 5 days to then end that lockdown?
It won't be case numbers. Case numbers are not particularly relevant. It'll be about people being out in the community, and the term that is the most appropriate term, how many exposure days have people had out there in the community before they have tested positive. Once we've got a sense that we have cases, but we've isolated them all and they're tucked away safely, and we don't have community transmission, mystery cases, unknown and unchecked chains of transmission, we'll be able to open up. And we're confident that we can get our arms around all of these cases and be clear that there's not something going on out there that we don't know about. You just need a little bit of time for that. I wish we didn't need these 5 days, but even, I think, elite contact tracing, they're doing such a good job, but this thing moves so fast. Well, just think about it. You're getting it from someone you don't even know you are in the company of. You don't know them, you've never met them, you don't have any sense that you spent time with them. But it could well be the case. We'll have to work this through. It could well be the case that on that basis people are giving the virus to each other. That is a very different enemy than the one we faced for last year, but it is the same as the one we beat just a few weeks ago.
Elective surgery counted tomorrow. Has there been an infection or a risk of exposure at the Royal Melbourne Hospital?
Not that I'm aware of, and I'll have more to say about surgery and hospital functions tomorrow.
Were most face-to-face conduct themselves at practices?
It is. Schools will do their very best tomorrow to provide support and as close to a regular curriculum and a regular school day as possible. But my message, and I think that the Deputy Premier and Education Minister's message to schools is, tomorrow will be a challenging day, but with the benefit of the weekend and tomorrow, we'll be able to have those 2 days of full remote learning on Monday and Tuesday, and hopefully we've got our schools back in place on Wednesday. Of course, we would always reserve the right to look at senior students, look at kids with disabilities, look at bespoke arrangements in the event that this went beyond midnight Tuesday. But we think that we've already got a few schools closed, Rich. You can do this one of 2 ways. You can close down the system and shut down literally millions of movements every single day, or you can do this school by school by school, which is kind of what's happening now. So we've made the difficult decision to have these 3 days at home. We think that's the right thing to do. Movement means infection, and just a school day involves many hundreds of thousands of students and parents and teachers and staff moving to and from. That, particularly with Delta, could be a big contributing factor to the virus spreading. We just don't want that.
Do you believe that this lockdown has been avoided and Sydney lockdown harder?
Look, I'm not here to rate Sydney. I'm not here to provide any of that sort of gratuitous commentary. My job is to protect Victoria, and that's what I'm doing.
When you look at opening up on Wednesday, do you expect that we return to where we are now as far as settings, or will it slow?
I'd like to get, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but whenever this ends, and it is my hope, and we'll be working, again, I stress, I cannot guarantee that it's Tuesday night, but I can certainly guarantee to all my fellow Victorians that we'll work as hard as we possibly can to be out of this on Tuesday night. But when we come out of it, we will get back to where we are now as fast as we possibly can. It's not a switch. I think we have to acknowledge that, and indeed we know that, we've lived that. But I'm confident that we can get not just around it, but we can get out in front of it. That's how you really put the thing out. That's what we have to do, because even if it's left smouldering, it will reignite and run again. That's how fast this thing moves. That's now accepted fact, I think, not just here, but indeed right across the world.
We've
got to send it, mate.
The Prime Minister's office says it's happy to sign off on income support tonight, provided Victoria pays 50/50 for this first week. Is that a deal you would entertain?
Well, with the greatest of respect to you, to Channel 9 and to the Prime Minister, I'll do my negotiations with him, me and him probably, rather than at a news conference. I've been texting with him all day. I think we can come to an agreement, whether it's 5/7 of the $600 and the $375, which I would have thought would be a pretty fair thing, if it is a 5-day lockdown instead of a 7-day lockdown. I'll tell you what I'm not going to do though, because I'm not averse to sending messages to people via the media, not just Victorians, but some that are up a bit further north. I'm not going to say, righto, we're locking down for 7 days, like 2 full days extra, which is more than the health advice tells me I need to, in order to qualify for a Commonwealth program, when all they ever tell us is that every dollar they spend is based on need. Well, need starts hour 1 of day 1 of a lockdown. The other thing too is, it's not a cost to the budget, no matter how much you paid out. This program was, I think, more than $60 billion cheaper than they thought, just a small matter of that, but leave that to one side. This is not about the cost to the budget, it's an investment in getting this thing under control. Because I don't want any family to have to choose between feeding their family and protecting every family. I don't want that choice to have to be made. If people know that they've got a cheque coming, that they've got wages coming, then they'll follow the rules, and we'll all be out of this sooner. That's our experience from last year. We will have more to say about business support. We've always done more than our fair share. We'll continue to do that. I'm not having a quarrel with the Prime Minister. I acknowledge he's made some changes today. I just think there's a further change that needs to be made, and we'll talk tonight, and hopefully we can get a deal done.
But on business support, there's some Victorian businesses that are still waiting for payments from the Victorian government.
Yes.
Is that good enough?
Look, we always try to make sure that we have payments out as fast as possible. When we have more to say about this, I think there's every chance, Rich, that we won't ask people to go back through the same process. If you got a cheque last time, or if you've been approved, then you'll get a cheque this time. That's what we're going to try and do. But we've got a little bit of detail to work through there, and it is a substantial amount of taxpayers' money, so we have a proper process to go through, so I'm not going to do it on the fly, but hopefully very soon we'll be able to land on that. Senior ministers have already had a chat about that, and we'll have payments out to people as soon as we can, and they'll be well guided by the sorts of levels and payments we made last time.
What's the follow-up with the payments from the last lockdown? That's weeks ago now.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. I can try and get you some information. I'm not sure exactly how many have not been paid and what the reasons are. There are some people who will not be eligible. I don't expect them to be pleased about that. They'll be informed of that as soon as we can. I'm certain that Minister Pakula will be only too happy to take you through those issues. I'm not briefed on the finer detail of that, but rest assured, as soon as we can get the payments out, we will. Not just those that we're committed to, but the next round of business support. And again, it was part of the discussion I had with the PM today. We all have to work hard to get whatever payments we agree to into people's bank accounts as quickly as possible. But a big point I would just say, and maybe I'm wrong, but my read of this is that if you know you're going to get $400 or $500 in a week's time, then you can plan for that. You can make decisions for that. You can follow the rules. You can play your part. Just like a business, if they know the money's coming, then as long as it's there in good time, they know it's coming and they can plan around that. So that's always our aim.
Well, if payments haven't been made from the last lockdown, it wasn't our first lockdown, it was our fourth lockdown, how can Victorian businesses be confident that they will have that money in their bank?
Well, let's first establish exactly how many people haven't been paid and what the reasons are for that before we start drawing any wider conclusions. I'd say that every Victorian can be confident of quite a few things. One, if I say it, I mean it, and I get on and do it, and that I'm all about protecting our state. And I think I've demonstrated that to every single Victorian, and I'll keep on doing that.
Any other lockdowns being taken in Melbourne?
Yes.
impacting Melbourne, the session within 3 months.
Yep.
Without federal support this time around, how do you expect businesses to survive this?
Well, I wouldn't concede the point that there won't be federal support. I think that the Prime Minister's made announcements on Tuesday. He's made further announcements today. I've been in discussions with him both over the phone and text back and forth for most of the day. We'll probably talk later on tonight. He's on 7 days. Because of health advice, we've decided to go with 5 days. For the sake of a couple of days, I really don't think that we can have people going without the payments that they are entitled to. I would have thought 5/7 of that weekly payment would be a pretty good place to settle. And I've already agreed to, for instance, just before anyone runs away with the notion that we're not agreeing to play our part, Commonwealth determined hotspots, federal government pays. Our lockdown covers the whole state. Our whole state is not declared a lockdown on the federal government rules. We will be paying any income support for the regional areas. Business support, the Commonwealth government's made some changes in the event that a lockdown runs for 2 weeks. That's a 50-50 thing. We're hoping not to get to that, but if we did, then we would agree to meet our share of that.
Will you be asking the federal government to support us with 5 days?
Certainly, no, they fully understand it. Look, at the end of the day, I would be staggered if the Prime Minister and the Federal Treasurer want to look Victorians in the eye and say, you were locked down for 5 days, you weren't locked down for 7, therefore you're not getting anything. I really don't think they would want to get into that sort of argument. I certainly wouldn't want to, and I'm confident that we can have a mature discussion. I've got a good relationship with the PM. He knows where I'm coming from, he knows where I stand, and that's with every single Victorian, and making sure that they get the support that they are fundamentally entitled to.
What do we know about the latest case of the MCG? Are they entitled to retirement? We're waiting in the making.
Jerome will be the man to tell you all about that.
Thank you. So the latest case this afternoon at the MCG is a man in his 20s. He was in the again in that MCC members reserve area where we know the positive case was at with his other friend on Saturday the 10th for the Geelong Carlton game. That's the information we have at this moment in time. Obviously, we are working with all 3 new cases today identified at the MCG. They've got a number of exposure sites. Some of those exposure sites are active there already, and we'll continue, of course, that work over the course of the evening and into the night.
Trinity Grammar sent a note to their school community this evening saying that they've got a positive case in that school community. Is that one of those new cases?
Sorry, which school community?
Trinity Grammar.
Trinity Grammar. I'm not briefed on that particular case. So clearly, we've got, as an unfolding investigation. Certainly, we're aware that one of the new positive cases that we've identified today has a link to a school setting. I'm not sure which school that is at this point in time. And I know that at this very time this evening, I know school communities around the state will, of course, be getting ready to support students over the next 5 days of this lockdown. And our thanks, of course, to them for all the hard work they'll do on that front. And we have a number of schools already, certainly Melbourne Primary, Bacchus Marsh Grammar, and a number of other schools that are already working through with exposures. Really good support we're seeing from the local public health units who will work with those schools and the school communities to get through this quickly.
Is there a potential exposure of the monkey on Tuesday night?
Not that I'm aware of at this point in time, Rich, but as soon as it comes up, I'll let you know. Maya? Yep. 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 Yeah. Yeah. So Samaya, as I said earlier today, and recognising the lateness of the hour and the amount of work we've all got to do, we have spent many hours trying to work through the logistics of this journey from Sydney to Melbourne to Adelaide and back to Sydney again. You're absolutely right. Again, there's new information that arrived late last night with our South Australian colleagues and identified some servos in Tailem Bend. Again, we have sought information from the company concerned, and of course with New South Wales health authorities and South Australia health authorities to try and work out more details. At this point in time, as I made abundantly clear 3 or 4 hours ago, we have to move on. We have 18 cases now here in Victoria. Our focus has to be on making sure those people are safe. We've got 6,500 primary and secondary close contacts that we're following through. That's where our focus needs to be. I'm not going to talk about them again. I'm happy to take any other questions, but not on removal lists.
Is that new MCC
So the latest information we have with the new case at the MCC or the MCG that arrived later this afternoon, we do not at this point in time believe there are any direct links between that individual and the other 2 cases we've identified today, or indeed any known contacts with the index case that visited. So again, very early in this investigation, but at this point in time, it is people who do not know each other going in. It is people who have not had any known contact with each other. All the cases we've spoken to so far, and of course those conversations will go into the night, are not aware of any contact with those named individuals. So this is fleeting transmission. This is stranger to stranger transmission. It's exactly what we saw when we dealt with this Delta strain only a few weeks ago. And as the Premier has said, we dealt with it then. We'll deal with it again, but we need to make sure we stick to those key behaviours.
So on the fleeting transmission, please ask the Deputy Chief Officer about that. Thank you, Jerome. Could you just explain your concerns as a public health official here about that fleeting transmission? And also, second question, what made you decide to recommend the government a 5-day lockdown?
So first of all, what we've got at the MCG is people who are in a similar area in the seating. I think we know that you can aerosolise the virus when you're cheering. I'm not sure which team they broke for, but maybe the winning team. But anyway, the likelihood is that probably through aerosolisation, other people in the region have become infected. It's also possible that within the facilities in the place, such as toilets, food and beverage outlets, bars, people could have had fleeting transmission that may have passed on the virus. We're looking very closely at the CCTV footage to see if we can actually find out exactly whether people came into contact, but it's possible it's just being in the same environment. And that's why, as the Premier and Jerome have both mentioned, that's why this virus, it's so important that we act so quickly, and we have to come to really significant measures that we came to last night, because the fact of the matter is that it is moving so fast and it's so infectious. And I know I've said that before, but I've been through these outbreaks now for 18 months now, and I've seen all the different strains of viruses come and go, and we've defeated all of them, but this is again another up. It's faster, it's more infectious, and although, as we said, we got to 7 rings in a very short time, what I need to know as a public health official is that when I get to where it is, people have stopped moving, and they're not at school, and they're not at a football game, they're not in a movie theatre, they're actually sitting at home. And therefore, although we're moving fast, as said before, we've got to get ahead of it, and we're going really fast. We've done well, but we're not ahead of it yet where we'd like to be, and we need extra help, and that's what a lockdown does.
5 days. What, do you reckon 5 days?
So yes, because we think in 5 days we can have a very good idea of where we're at, and we're really hopeful that we can be around it by then. It's impossible, you can't see this virus, so you can't know, and that's one of the reasons around the regional thing is, I'm a regional person, I'd love that regional people aren't locked down, and I understand the pain, but I also know that I don't know where this virus is right now, and I don't want to find out in 48 hours that it's somewhere that it already was, and then all these people are exposed, which means not only do they have to quarantine for a much longer period of time, but they might catch the virus and they might get sick. So it actually is partly a protective thing for people as well.
When did you decide that a lockdown was going to be necessary?
Look, we've been reviewing the situation literally on an hour-to-hour basis. You know, it moves so quickly, and you've just got to be keeping an eye on what's going on. But it became pretty clear this morning when we have new cases at the MCG in a very busy area with people that don't know each other, coming from very diverse parts of the state, that at least in this situation, but knowing as well that it transmitted there, that some of the other exposure sites that we know about are probably very high risk as well, and there's likely to be transmission in those, and we'll see what happens in the next few days. But it really brought home that this virus is actually out there to a significant degree, and we need to take some drastic measures to control it. Look, we always rely on people telling us the truth, and with anyone, we never know for sure where they tell us everything. So I'm pretty confident knowing the route, and we have ways of tracking them that I think we have got all the things. I can't guarantee that, but I'm pretty confident we do.
Daddy said they were referred to enforcement authorities, Jerome said earlier. Who are those, which enforcement authorities, and what were the grounds for that referral?
So I just deal in the health aspects. So I'm a doctor. I don't deal with that. So I think Jerome's already answered those questions this morning.
Yes, hasn't confusing too, Jerome. Jerome, which enforcement authorities were there on referred?
So there are. All right, let me deal with it one more time. We have enforcement, the health enforcement team within the Department of Health, working with their colleagues in South Australia and in New South Wales. We're also working with colleagues in Vic Police, and they'll be reaching out to their colleagues in New South Wales Police and South Australian Police. Really, look, and the reason I'm so, the reason we're so frustrated with this is we're sitting here, 4 or 5 hours away from having to go through another 5-day lockdown in this state because of the actions of 2 incursions from the other state. That is extremely problematic for us. We have a live outbreak to deal with. It is far more important for Dan, myself and the rest of our teams to be focused on dealing with active outbreaks so we can bring this thing to ground, and we need the support of the wider community on that. And the reason I'm so frustrated, Rachel, in endlessly going over the details of who these people are and what their star sign is, it doesn't help us with that. The only thing we have to do is about get this thing under control and move on. There are enforcement people who can deal with the wheels of justice in slow time.
Jerome, for the sake of transparency though, if you're angry, Victorians are angry,
Yep.
this is how this outbreak started. So we need a little bit more detail. Should the full force of the law be thrown?
Look, that,
It would be my expectation that law enforcement in now 3 states will look very closely at what these 2 people have done or not done. And as soon as we've got anything to update, not just you, but the entire Victorian community with, we absolutely will. I would just make the point though, and it's not the first time we've seen someone do the wrong thing and the consequences of that. We've seen that many times. Victorians know and understand that, have lived it more than anybody else in our country. But I tell you what, someone coming forward and telling the truth is the most valuable thing. That's precious. So the frustration in many respects is not that they perhaps didn't wear their mask when they were unloading the truck. It's that for quite a while they were very difficult and weren't being necessarily forthcoming. Now whether that's an offence is another matter. But look, I can't change what they did and didn't do. All we can do is make the best decisions now based on public health advice. But rest assured, if they're found to have done the wrong thing, that's a matter and a burden of proof, and all those judgments are made by police in 3 states now. I'm confident that those judgments will be made fairly and properly. We can't change that. We can only do our very best, and I think the best thing for us all to do right now, I'm not being critical of the question, but the best thing for us to do right now is to accept and acknowledge. We can't wait. We cannot wait and hope that this just goes away. We have to put this out ourselves by being hard and fast and acting early, and that's exactly what we've announced.
Premier, how sustainable is this that we're locking down again with less than 20 cases? I know it's spreading quickly, but going forward, how sustainable is this? Come back to National Cabinet, lock down the last resort.
Yeah.
Is this sustainable going forward?
Well, I take you to the Finkel document that yes talks about last resorts, but it also talks about you only get one chance to go hard, go fast, go early, go short. Right? Do it for 5 days, not 5 weeks, not 5 months. Victorians know this. We've had experience of both, and the shorter one is much better, and that's what I'm determined to try and deliver. I can't guarantee that, but it's what we're all working really hard to do. In terms of National Cabinet, we've got to get a critical mass of people through the Commonwealth's vaccine program. The only limiting factor there is, do we have enough vials? Do we have enough boxes of this stuff? Do we have the supply necessary? We will in September, in October, in November, and then we'll have to all work very hard to get not 75% or 65%, but I think a higher number. We've got to try and get as many people as we can. Because if we have 25% of people who are not vaccinated, that's the equivalent of the community in Victoria. And if it runs through them, then many of them will get sick, and really sick. You see up in New South Wales, again, it's no criticism, but just look at the age profile, look at the otherwise healthy status of people that are in hospital and in ICU and on machines to help them breathe in Sydney. We don't want that here. We've had that here. We have to do everything we can to avoid that.
On that point, will you ask for extra supplies to send to the Victorian like we've seen in Sydney?
Oh, look, I think that if the federal government had extra supplies, then they would be giving them to us. It's not so much a matter of, I don't think this is a question of where are they allocated to, it's a question of have you got them? And the answer is the Commonwealth don't have them. They will have them soon, and I think General Fruin has a plan in partnership with us. We're happy to help out wherever we can, and I think we're still at the top of the table in terms of state administered shots. I think we've done through our state clinics more than any other state, and we aim to continue doing that. We just need the stock.
Your New South Wales counterpart today was asked if they should be more like Victoria was successful in locking down, and she scoffed and said it wasn't. What's your response to that?
I don't have any response to that. I'm not here to scoff at anyone or sneer at them either, frankly. You know, that doesn't work against this virus. It doesn't work against this virus. This virus doesn't care whether you've got, you know, a big ego or not. It doesn't care. Like, just get on and get the job done. That's what I'm paid to do. That's what I'm here to do. And people know with me, like if I say it, I mean it. And to my last breath, I will work to keep this state safe. And, you know, I can't control what happens and doesn't happen in New South Wales. These cases started in New South Wales, but I'm determined that they'll end here, because we will put this out with the help of every single Victorian.
Are there any active cases in hospital IC?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Until we get to the level of vaccination that we need, do you think there's an argument perhaps to require people to prove that they don't have COVID to go to the football or cinema or theatre, and maybe use rapid testing a bit more widely?
Again, there's a couple of issues here. How reliable, how accurate, what's the efficacy of those tests?
Love you, everyone. Thank you, healthcare workers, and fuck Burma.
I'm not sure whether, I didn't hear the last bit of that. You all seem quite amused by it. In any event, whether rapid testing would do the job that you're wanting it to do, we'd have to be guided.
They're being used quite widely in Europe.
Yeah. And well, the other thing is, do we have supplies of those? Could we get a national agreement about what that negative rapid test means? Look, I think all of those things become more and more relevant, particularly once we see people with the jab. But we have seen many people who have been infectious without any symptoms. Arguably, some of that negative testing is more important once we get a critical mass of people with the vaccine, because the vaccine suppresses symptoms. And there will still be a cohort of people who are not covered by that. I suppose that's kind of a long way of saying we're always looking at any technology, any new systems, anything we can do to be more effective against this. You know, our response can't be static, because this virus is not static. Delta is anything but.
Did the current situation in Sydney make it easier to make the decision to lock down?
Oh, look, anytime you've got 1,000 cases and literally tens of thousands of close contacts, you know, a wave, like we're not doing an outbreak here, like a wave, then you have to bear that in mind.
As in, did it make your decision to lock Victoria down easier, given what they're going through, which is the same thing now?
No, it's never easy. What I'd say to you is, when you look to the north and you see the really significant challenges that they face, and we wish them well, and we have offered support, we wish them nothing but success, because their success will be our success. I don't want to see the nation locked down. I want to see things brought under control in Sydney. I want to see us get ahead of it and suppress it, extinguish it here in our state. And I dare say other premiers would have a similar view. So I wish them only well, but when you see something as significant as that happening just across the border, then it's a context that becomes very, very relevant. It shows you what you want to try and avoid. And it's a contemporary example of how infectious Delta is. But of course, Victorians don't need to be told that by anybody. We've seen how infectious Delta is. We've beaten it once, only a few weeks ago, and we'll beat it again if we all do the right thing. And the principal thing to do, if you're asked to isolate, isolate. If you've got symptoms, however mild, please go and get tested, and please get tested quickly. The turnarounds are amazing at the moment. We're getting, even though the volumes are up, we're getting results back to people really quickly, and we will give you your results as fast as we possibly can, and then you can protect yourself, the people you love, and you can help protect all of us.
Confident that the circumstances around this outbreak are more manageable than last month when 5 days turned into 2
Yeah,
days?
look, don't take my answer as any sort of guarantee about 5 days. I've tried to be clear with you guys and with the community that I can't guarantee that. That's our current advice, that's what we're working towards, that's what we'll do, everything we can to try and deliver. But it is a matter of fact that this is a bit more linear, it's a little bit less complex. There's only two chains of transmission, but of course one of them does involve a football game with lots of people. But it is a little less complex than the one we faced previously. But again, it's Delta and it moves so fast. You know, again, just for the benefit of you guys all know this, but for the benefit of everyone watching and listening, normally somebody tests positive, we get to them and we can help to isolate them and all the people that they've been anywhere near really quickly. And it's usually them, their immediate family, and maybe a few others. By the time we're getting to people with Delta, they've already infected their family. So it's not just them and their family, it's them, their family, and everybody that their whole family has seen. And then the people that they have seen. It just explodes. That's why we have to be not running alongside this thing, we have to get out in front of it. That's how we'll put it out, and that's how we'll get back to normal.
Premier, was there any consideration given to not locking down these regional areas that don't have a case or don't have a close contact yet positive? And was there also any consideration doing this lockdown without having to close schools?
We always consider, and the public health team always consider, like literally thousands of different options. There'll be orders that will be up on the website tonight. They'll be signed by the acting chief health officer. So before someone says, will you release the health advice, it's all there with a signature at the bottom of it. But you don't get any clearer than that. It's there, not signed by the acting chief health officer. Very, very clear. In terms of all the options, we always look at all the options, and you make some really difficult calls. And I know the public health team agonise over these things. But given it's Delta, given that we've got a chance to extinguish it, to put it out quickly, then you go that extra mile, I think. And for the sake of 2 or 3 days at school, I'm not saying it'll be easy, and I just remind people that kids of workers who are authorised to go to work can go to school, and vulnerable children can go to school. Everybody else needs to learn from home. People who are working in authorised industries can go to work. People who are not authorised cannot go to work. So just for clarity's sake, like retail is shut. It's not open. There'll be no browsing. There'll be no, it's click and collect. That's what it has to be, because that's what's safe, and that's what's worked before in Melbourne, and it's what will work again. Schools are always tough, really tough, particularly when we look at what kids have been through last year. But yeah, the answer is we looked at all of that and more, and these are the decisions that we've made based on health advice, because we believe it's got the maximum chance of working in that 5-day window.
It sounds like from the language you just used then that you're not happy with the place that the lockdown's gone.
No, I'm just consistent. I'm just consistent. This is how we've always done it.
You're hearing browsing words that Gladys Berejiklian.
I'm not interested in words that others use. I'm telling you how it is. This is how we do it, and we're going to do it again this way. It's how it worked a couple of weeks ago. Retail shut. Retail's closed. Click and collect. Contactless. That's it. And there's a list. And if you're on the list, you can go to work. If you're not, you can't. And we are going to do everything we can to try and extinguish this thing, put it out in 5 days. Can't do it alone. I can't guarantee that's what happens, but we're all working as hard as we can. As I said, it didn't start here, but we're determined to make sure that it ends here by the rules that we put on, because we will not wait around. And if this offends the sensibilities of anybody else in any part of the country, I really don't care. We will not wait around. You only get one chance to act decisively, and that's what we're doing, because it's what Alan Finkel told us to do. It's what my public health team have told me to do, and it's what common sense tells you will work against this, and it's also what Victorian experience tells you works. We went hard and fast last time, and we put it out in a couple of weeks. We're hoping to do even better than that now.
Are you worried you've lost the social capital that instituted this lockdown? Is that one of your concerns, that you expect less compliance? Is it just more frustrating?
No, I think people know in Victoria more than any other part of the country. 5 days of pain is much better than 5 weeks or 5 months, and this is what we have to do. Victorians know that. I'm not expecting them to be happy about it, or I'm not happy about it. But this is where we're at. And I haven't got the luxury of doing what's popular or doing half measures. Do it properly, and that's what we're going to do. And hopefully it pulls it up. And we've said a lot. And again, I don't want to be read in any way to be critical or to be grading or rating any other state. That is their business. But we have made the point a number of times, if there's a problem in one part of the country, there's a problem everywhere. And we acknowledge that if there's a problem here in Melbourne, that'll be a problem for other parts of the country too. That's why we're acting fast, to try and avoid that. No, they won't. If it were a longer lockdown, then I think we would look at that issue, but because it's hopefully just the 5 days and 3 schooling days, we are not opening those. We'll go here and then.
How is the messaging of this lockdown being delivered to communities marking the end of Ramadan next week?
Yeah, there'll be very significant cultural engagement, as there has been all throughout last year, and we do that in lots of different ways. So it's trusted voices, faith leaders, community leaders, you know, everything from WhatsApp and social media platforms in local communities through to sermons that are given at temples and mosques and churches, and we try and get the message out any way we possibly can, and there's a deep engagement and a high quality engagement, particularly with our Islamic community. This is a holy and special time of the year for them, but they too want to protect their families and want to do the right thing. I'm really confident of that. So we'll have that kind of deep engagement with every group. Our cultural diversity is such an important part of who we are, and you have to make sure that you communicate as effectively as possible. And you guys will play an important part in that.
It does
Sorry.
seem that New South Wales was following the National Cabinet decision to make lockdowns a license. Do you think that was the wrong move?
I'm not here to grade other states. I'm not here to pass judgment. That's not my job. My job is to look after my state, and I'm doing everything I can to do that.
But now that their outbreak is impacting Victoria, do you think that that was the wrong move, given that it is impacting Victoria?
As I said, I was asked before about some commentary that was made at a press conference in Sydney today. I don't operate that way. You're not drawing me into sneering or making snide comments or being a marker, a grader of others. That's not my job. You can do that if you choose to. What's more, I think Victorians can make up their own minds. When they see some of the stuff they've seen, they can make up their own minds about these things. I'm here to do my job, and that's to keep Victoria safe, and to not only run alongside these cases, but to get out in front of them and extinguish this thing. That's what I'm going to do, but I can't do it on my own. I need every Victorian to work with me. I'm confident they have in the past and they will this time, because we've simply got no other choice. If this gets away from us, we've got so few people with 2 vaccines that we'll finish up with a lot of people in hospital, and a lot of them will be gravely ill, and we just don't want that. It is, but without crowds.
How regularly are you talking to the New South Wales Premier?
Oh, I'm not bothering the New South Wales Premier. She's got more than enough to do. I see her at National Cabinet once a week. I send her a text message from time to time. She's got her hands full, just as I do. If we need to talk, we would. Sure. Anything else for me on any other issues? Simon? No?
No, it's just when you swap, I'm just going to grab that one.
No problem at all. You do that while Jerome steps up.
Thank you very much. Simon? Yeah.
Are you aware of reports that this March Ramadan staff they may have actually been in breach of current restrictions?
That's not my understanding at the moment. So I think the staff, there is, I believe, a positive case who attended Bacchus Marsh Grammar School on Monday as a part of their duties. There was exposure there, of course, given a school event, and that's the whole nature of our response at the point in time. I'm not aware of any other
And just
breaches
to
there.
clarify, the friend of the man in the 60s who went to the footy with
Yep.
him, was he a teacher at Bacchus Marsh Grammar, or was it a family member of his?
No, so the individual who went to the footy, the man from Barwon Heads in his 50s who went to the footy with the gentleman from the apartments, he is a staff member at the Bacchus Marsh Grammar. Okay.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
That's all. See you tomorrow. Thank you.